We live in a changing world. Extraordinary set of changes and challenges are happening. In the last 10 months, we have seen the reflection of 80 million people impacted. Nearly 1.8 million people have lost their lives. This is not an ordinary pandemic. This is not a disaster, simple disaster. This is complete disruption to the world. While we recognize the human loss is extraordinary, the risk, if we have to measure it, it is economic risk, it is social risk, it is human risk, it is environmental risk. Economic risk globally, we all came together, the economists, the technicians, technocrats, central bankers, finance ministers, politicians have come together to put in not less than $30 trillion to sustain from this disaster to business continuity. That's the level of commitment. Nearly 10% of the global GDP today is being pumped in every pocket of the world. Now, if in substance, if you look at it, improving the debt servicing capacity, ensuring liquidity is not moving into solvency issue or bankruptcy, that's a major support. Every single country in the world, 194 countries are engaged in it, and they have recognized this is a great recession after 1930 depression. So decisions taken are all to ignite that we have to have business continuity, sustainable value creation. That's what exactly everyone is embarked in, and to a large extent, the humanity is saved now today. If you look at the paralysis, it's not a simple disruption, it's complete paralysis in terms of business. Now we have to understand, it's not confined to only economics. Human loss, we have seen, social reflection, including social distancing, hygiene, and ensuring healthcare systems are not broken. All of a sudden, if you look back, do we want to forget 2020? The answer is yes and no. The answer is yes, simply because the tragedy, what we have witnessed, the disruptions and the discomfort we all have gone through. But the lessons learned is going to be much more meaningful. The knowledge which we procure is going to be much more useful for us to reignite the minds of everyone. And so-called sustainable value chain everyone has talked about. Let's review in prospects what is likely to come and why this changing dynamics is going to be a value proposition which is positive, constructive, and meaningful travel. Now, when it comes to the environment side, increasing temperature, increasing sea levels, animal extinction, increasing temperature, we have seen the reflection across the globe. It is not predictable in substance. Food security is getting challenged, and we have seen the reflection of carbon emission. Now, if you look at the carbon emission, 27% of the global carbon emission comes from China, 15% from the United States, 10% from Europe, 7% from India. Now, how to create a carbon neutral society, how to make sure we produce a world, which protect this world for our children and grandchildren. And that's the major focus we have all had when we define the Sustainable Development Goal, when we changed the Millennium Development Goal into Sustainable Development Goal way back in 2015. This crisis is an opportunity. Think about it. Now, global powers, whether it is G20, last month when it was in Saudi Arabia, or BRIC in October, or for the matter, RCEP, APEC. If you look at the global powers, are all coming together and they are talking about sustainable environment. And that's the root cause for protecting this planet. So that's what precisely the lesson learned. The climate financing, ensuring you move from fossil fuel to renewables, solar, wind, biomass. Biodiversity is looked at with absolute vigor and reinvigoration in terms of creating a carbon neutral society. And that's most important. So is this change? Is a positive reflection? The answer is yes. We also have to, every corporate, as a part of social responsibility now, ESG reporting, social governance reporting is a must. That's a positive reflection. It is not economics, it is economics. Convergence of ecology and economics have to come in substance to make sure we produce economics with bigger acceleration. If you understand, if you factor the changing dynamics, alternatives which are available, then you can increase the productivity, improve the gross domestic product. And that's what the lessons every politicians, every government across the globe, every technocrat have been emphasizing, and that becomes the new norm. The resultant variant is extraordinary. Bankers like me, last 20 years, I've been advocating global warming and climate change, how to create green banking. Right from 2004 to 2007, I was wearing a fancy dress, buying an alligator mock-up in Hamlet Toys in London, and a python, and say, this is global warming, this is climate change. I was doing a technical presentation right from Tokyo to Nagoya to Washington. I finished in 2007. A portion of the risk-weighted capital based on the carbon emission, whether it is Kyoto Protocol or otherwise. The conference of the parties every year is happening, but for this year. Next year is going to be in Glasgow, UK. COP18 we hosted in 2012 in Doha. So we wanted to make sure a portion of the risk-weighted capital based on the compliance architecture, you have to invest or lend. Trillions of dollars it will come. If you look at the banking credit expansion every year, a portion, if you have to invest on these sustainable development projects, you can reduce the carbon emission. That's one piece of information for you. So this crisis, the change in dynamics is an opportunity. Recognize this. Now, everyone's talked about a poverty alleviation. It's not poverty alleviation alone is sufficient. You have to eliminate extreme poverty. Global warming, climate change, food security, poverty eradication are all interconnected, interdependent. Now, in substance, you have to recognize these variants are interdependent, and if you have to eradicate, then you have to have a combined forces and the policy framework. Today, this crisis has given us extraordinary opportunities for us to build food security. You've seen the reflection immediately in February and March, supermarkets were in rush. Even developed countries couldn't hold it. They have to make sure supply chains, when it got disrupted, they produced alternates and they made sure somehow they fed the population. In terms of global economics, we have seen the reflection. Aggregate growth this year, 4.4% contraction. Next year, it's going to be nearly 5.2% growth. Global trade is contracted by 9.7%. It's going to grow. Advanced economies, to a large extent, 5.9% is the momentum. We thought we will have contraction. It resulted in almost 6%, 6.2%. And next year, there is going to be a growth of 3.9%. Emerging markets, so-called developing economies, were contracted nearly 3.6%. Next year is going to be 6.6% growth. Countries like India, 10.4% is the contraction. They're going to move nearly 8.8%. Middle East and Central Asia is going to be contracted this year, 4.5%. Next year, growth is not less than 3%. That's the global matrix. The reason why I'm bringing in is if you factor economics into economics, your momentum is visible. And that's what everyone has to engage in. That's where the food security comes in. That's where steps towards, initiatives towards eradicating extreme poverty comes in. Look at the gender equality again. This crisis has given us enormous amount of opportunity to recognize, irrespective of the caste, creed, race, religion, gender, it is impactful. Rich or poor, again. It's God sent to change and transform this world. Take it. Let's understand these dynamics. So far, the world was artificial in having only external drive. They locked that down so that you have internal integration between your heart and mind. That's consciousness. Integrating your heart and mind is consciousness. That is precisely, you call it as meditation. That is what the breathing is all about. That's what your human design is all about. The only substance which keeps us connected going from the birth to death is the air. If you purify it by the process, scientific process, whether you call it as yoga or otherwise, you have longevity in place. And that's the message you are getting it. Where it got infected, it is your throat and your nose. So, enormous amount of healthcare has been focused. Gender equality has been focused. Education, again. Today, onshore, offshore, online, offline education. Education is not a textbook stuff. Keep discovering your ignorance is what education is all about. 60 years before, I thought I knew everything. Today, I keep discovering my ignorance. Now, continuous reorganization in education pattern. Today, from the village, a working woman can have complete access to information. We are building a knowledge economy. That's a major, major change in the world. That's the changing dynamics we were aspiring for. Bring literacy to the whole world. By bringing literacy, you're going to ensure their sustenance is meaningful. Social justice comes in. Functional freedom comes in. Gender equality comes in. So this crisis has forced us to go for online, offline education, onshore, offshore education. Gender equality has been ignited, reignited, reinvigorated to make sure we have better prospects to be a human. Look at the digital governance. Another great opportunity, artificial intelligence, blockchain, Internet of Things. Every day we are having minimum gadgets being bought 5.5 million. Today, the world has got not less than 50 billion. How much? 50 billion gadgets today around the world. That's improving the overall status of the world, status of humankind. The COVID-19 has accelerated the digital governance. What does it mean? It means improving the state of the world, ensuring if there is a convergence in all these prospects, including your business model. I defined the 4 risks: economic risk, social risk, human risk, environmental risk. But the solutions are very many. What are the solutions? That's what is going to reignite the new world. The digital governance also enabled us to create a knowledge society that's interconnected, interdependent. You are not location-centric, you are information-centric. You are not product-centric, you are consumer-centric, and you redefine the complete business model, whichever be the industry you come from. Whichever be the industry you come from. Every single change, every single sector is getting changed. Personal lifestyle has changed. Absolutely, it's reorganization. Good. We are socially conscious. We are maintaining healthcare. Our longevity is enhanced. Our lifestyle is improved in substance. So, huge amount of opportunity is cropping up in terms of reorganization, in terms of business modeling and remodeling. How do we change the business? Take, for example, banking. Transaction-based processing, nearly in the last 10 months, has moved. When I say transaction-based processing, let us say retail, it is not retail anymore. It is all digital access, omni-channels, unifying messages, ensuring customer gets the convenience, it gets cost-effective mechanism. It comes in internet banking, mobile banking, GPRS, it comes in mobility to the core, and e-commerce market is trillions of dollars are being pumped in the last 10 months. Look at the opportunity in terms of business remodeling. Why are we underestimating the opportunity on account of this crisis? Transaction-based processing, customer behavior has changed. Nearly 85% of the customers today don't want to visit retail outlets, whether it is apparel industry or a banking. That's a huge reorganization. Look at every part of digital governance impacting and remodeling in terms of business. Now, concierge, you can book your hotel. You are doing a virtual conference as we speak here. You're connecting the global resources. You don't need to physically transport, saving up time, saving up carbon emission. And again, we are globally, we are getting the resource. You are upskilling, you are reskilling. What an opportunity. What an opportunity for us to recognize. So, huge amount of opportunity cropping up in terms of business remodeling, restructuring of a debt. This crisis has given us enormous lessons that we have to live within the means. Countries have been overdriven. If you look at the global GDP, 80 trillion, 85 trillion, if you have 350 trillion as a global debt, look at the borrowing. Who is going to repay for it? Your future generation. What are you trying to give us a legacy? Live within your means. Live within your means. That's the message we are getting. You have to restructure it. You have to have ease of doing business. You have to necessarily make sure you have interest rate reduction. There will be global inflation will be down for a few years. Interest rate has been put to rest. Hike has been put to rest. So that's a huge amount of monetary policy and fiscal prudence coming up. The financial alignment between the monetary policy and fiscal policy is what every country is engaged in. That's a huge development in the financial discipline to the world. Why are we ignoring it? I've seen a lot of judges here. Justice is truth in action. If that is justice is integrity. Today, commercial courts are happening through web. So e-channels are today disposing every dispute resolutions today coming on online. That is a bureaucracy. It's all getting eliminated. What a beauty. What a beauty of this crisis. We have to have speed in action. That is what the truth is all about. So we have to necessarily make sure the victims are rightly, given justice. Today, commercial or criminal or civil cases today are all coming through digital channels. Now, anti-money laundering and combating financing terrorism, there's another major issue. Today's global security was at stake and is at stake today as well. Because parallel power, money, black money, parallel money, that was killing the world. Countries like India. India is not full. Poor people are there in India. India is rich. What has happened? We all know the parallel money. Now with the digital governance, you can eliminate the parallel money. Countries are now thinking about, technocrats, the central bankers are thinking about issuing digital currency. It means the barometer as an economy will come in digital form. What does it tell you? There cannot be a parallel money. Everything is online, everything is tracked, and you are completely bringing transparency and trust. So you will eliminate slowly but steadily. Not only demonetization was brought in 2016. Now we see the value in it. Every application today is digital. A 1 rupee coffee you need or tea you need in Indian tea shops, you can use apps. Banks are enabling. Parallel money should be killed because that's a national security issue. Globally, anti-money laundering, combating financing terrorism. Cybersecurity is going to be the major thrust. By this crisis, we are accelerating the cybersecurity. By this crisis, we are eliminating and scissoring the panel money, black money. No more black money. Everything is transparent. Everything is declared. Compliance architecture is going to be so meaningful. Today, this crisis has enabled us to give better humanity. We have to protect from this crisis. So today, the new world order, this crisis is God sent. Understand the dynamics of these changes. While it is tragedy, we lost 1.8 million people. The world was disrupted. But the benefits is enduring. Benefits is enriching. Let's go back to Gandhi's word and I close it. Knowledge without character. Politics without principles. Pleasure without consciousness. Religion without sacrifice. Commerce without morality. Science without humanity are all seven sins. The seven sins can never be accepted. It is not situational ethics. Truth in action again. The consciousness again. Corporate consciousness, human consciousness. Live as human beings. Love the humanity. More than ever, people are interconnected. More than ever, people are understanding this world is not permanent. More than ever, people are recognizing this is a transitory phase. It's a passage of time. By the wink of an eye, we will change the form. You are not the body. You are not the mind. We recognize this. This crisis has taught us this. If you want a short-term solution, you build flowers. If you want a medium-term solution, you build trees. If you want long-term, you build eternity, humanity. And that's what this crisis is all about. With this, I reiterate my stand. This crisis is a great opportunity for humanity, human dignity, human prosperity. Every single sustainable value chain, if you interpret, you have value streaming is on. Just a beginning. Embrace this change. Ensure we build better humanity, human prosperity. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your kind attention. Nandri, Vanakkam.